Hi, and welcome back. I'm Ted Thomas. And what we're going to talk about today in this episode is how to buy tax deeds over the counter. You can also buy tax lien certificates over the counter, but we'll cover tax deeds over the counter on this particular episode. I'll also talk to you a little bit about making money with tax liens and a little bit about the auctions. So before I finish this video, at the very end, I'll talk to you about two mistakes that I want to make sure that you avoid. And they all take place, or those two mistakes I should say, take place at the auction. Now the auction, people get excited, but there's two mistakes that they make that could cost you $25,000 or even $50,000 in lost money. So I want to make sure that you avoid those. So hang in with me till the end and you'll see those two mistakes. That way you'll be able to avoid them. Stay tuned, I'm coming right back. Let me get started with a little foundational material, give you a little basis of this business. It's been around for over 200 years. Anybody can do it. It's available in 3,000 counties plus and 1,400 municipalities. Now the states are pretty much divided, and half of the states will sell tax lien certificates and the other half of the states will sell tax defaulted property. All right, either of these could end up not being sold at the auction. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So this episode is all about how to buy tax deeds over the counter. Now, all properties in the county must pay property tax. If they don't pay property tax, they're going to have a treasurer levy the tax, try to collect the tax, and if they can't collect the tax, the treasurer will seize the property. That is, they'll confiscate the property and move whoever's in it out of the property, and then it's the treasurer's job to sell those properties at a tax defaulted auction. A tax defaulted auction can take place in any county at any time, but they announce them online. They also announce them in the newspaper. Most people don't know what they're reading, but they're there. And those auctions sometimes will have 10 or 20 properties if they're doing it every 2 weeks, or they could have as many as 200 or 400 properties at the auction. I've been to the Los Angeles County auction, and there was 2,000 properties every time I went. Now that's kind of a zoo and they're trying to get rid of 2,000 properties. So that's a whole challenge. All right, so all properties are sold after the county has gone through the foreclosure process, gone through the auction process. They're sold at the auction and they're trying to sell the properties for as much money as they can get, but basically it'll start at back taxes. So don't bid 95%. Try to bid as low as possible to get the property. All right, the money that's collected goes to the local government to pay local government bills. That's what it is. Generally speaking, the taxes are 1 or 2%. So what I'm going to cover is how to buy tax deeds over the counter. If the auction takes place and there's no bidding, or there's no bidding on a certain property, the county will try again at the next auction to sell the property. If they don't sell the property, now they have to do something with it. So rather than leave it on that same auction list, they'll move it over to another list. I can't tell you the name of the other list until I know what state you're in. However, the list could be called a surplus lands list. It could be called leftover lands list. It could be called a strike-off list. It could be called a scavenger list. You're getting the idea. So the local county is going to name it what they want. For example, in South Carolina, they call it the Forfeited Lands Commission list. All right, now those properties are properties that did not sell at the auction. Now, why do you want to know about it? Because the auction might have snowed that day. It might have rained real hard that day. Properties sometimes end up on the leftover list or the scavenger list that are perfectly good properties. The properties are going to have a starting bid of very close to the back taxes. If nobody shows up, it's on this list at very close to the back taxes. If you show up and want to buy over the counter, that means you showed up at the county and you're just standing there at a big desk and say, I want to see the properties on the scavenger list, and they'll give you the list. You can go look at every one of them. You can check them out on the computer if you want, but there's nobody else bidding. You're the only buyer. So some people are going to make $25,000 and $50,000. I have examples of people that have bought for $2,000 and sold years later for $100,000. So there are valuable deals on the over-the-counter list. All right, so what took place here? Well, what the county did, when whoever the taxpayer was, when they didn't pay the tax, the treasurer levied the tax, attempted to collect the tax. They did not collect it. So what happens? They seized the property. They tried to sell it at auction. A little complicated process, right? They didn't sell it at auction. It snowed or nobody showed up. I have tons of examples of people buying at auction because it snowed in like Snohomish County in Seattle. It's snowing, nobody showed up, and my clients are in there buying because we forewarned them. If it's raining or snowing, people will stay home. Go to the auction, make sure you're there. All right, so these properties are now on a leftover list of some kind. There's no bidding at that auction. That simply means that you can walk in, look at the list. When you finish looking at the list, look at the property. Key point, look at the property, make sure it's there. All right, and then if it's still worth that amount of money, buy the property. There will be no bidding on the property. Whatever they say they're going to sell it for, they want it, you're going to give it to them right there. You'll now own the property. Keep in mind, the mortgage has already been wiped off the property. Okay, when I say it's wiped off the property, it's removed. All right, the person that signed that mortgage, the signatory, they still owe that mortgage. It's not owed by the property. The property has just been the security. So that means there's no more other bids going to take place, and you now own a property. So taxes always start at whatever the rate is. It's usually 1 or 2% of the value of the property. If 2 or 3 years taxes go by and the property goes to auction, you're going to be stealing a property for 2, 3, or 5% of what their real value is. So it's a great place to do it. The county doesn't want that property. The county wants to sell it. Some leftover lands lists, some of those scavenger lists will have thousands of tax defaulted property and thousands of tax liens, all for sale, no bidding take place. All right, so you're getting the idea. So if you're learning a lot, well, give us a thumbs up. If you want to give us some comments, you can also do that. If you want to know what the rate is in your state for a tax lien, just let me know any of those things. I'll not only tell you that, but I'll send you a nice free gift. So I'm about to button it up, but I do want to mention the rural counties don't have as many people showing up for auctions as the big cities. Everybody goes to the big city, and those auctions could have a lot of properties, so there's a lot of choices. But if you go to the rural counties, you'll be doing business with the county. You probably won't have a professional auctioneer. Your chances of getting a low-price property are better in a rural county than they are in a big city because the commercial auctioneers are running the price up. Run the price up. They want to get as high as possible because they're paid a commission. All right, auction properties are always sold to the highest bidder. If there's no bidder, it ends up just what we're talking about in today's episode. Tax deeds over the counter. Now you know how to do it. Don't forget who the most important person at the auction is. It's the treasurer. They're in control. They can change the price on the property. They can stop you from bidding. They can have you removed. They can do it. The treasurer is in control of the auction. So I'm going to answer 2 questions, and that's it for this lesson. Now, the question is, over the counter, it started at $100. I don't know what they're going to start at. The county will decide what they're going to start at. But there's auctions that start at $100. Some treasurers will say, when this auction is over, we'll have another auction tomorrow or 42 days from now and change the price to $100. The treasurer has power to do all that. I've sat in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and the treasurer said, come back in 42 days, everything will be $100. I've sat in Los Angeles and San Bernardino County where they said, come back in 30 days, we'll sell them for $100. It's up to the treasurer. You just have to go to the auction to find out. As I mentioned earlier, there is tax liens over the counter by the thousands, and there's tax deeds also by the thousands over the counter.